In today's lesson, we're going to finish up our look at the first five presidents. We're going to start with the fourth president, James Madison. James Madison will be, well, he's known as the father of the Constitution. He's the guy that was the main writer of the Constitution, and his presidency is marked by the War of 1812. This is how we remember him. Um, he gets into a war with Great Britain. Remember, he's a Democratic Republican, and they are closer to France than they are to Britain. And so, when it comes to what was going on with the British, um, you know, they side more with France. Now, what was happening was that the British were messing with our trade. Now, you have to understand, and I go into this a little bit more in class, but the French and the British are fighting, and the Americans want to trade with both of them. And Britain, since they have a stronger navy, they're going to do most of the stopping of ships to make sure that France doesn't get benefit from the trade with America. This is enough of a cause for America to go to war with Britain, and that's exactly what we do. So Madison asked Congress in 1812 to declare war on Britain, and so we do. So we fight until 1814, and really what ends up happening, nobody really wins, but Europe now gets a level of respect for the young United States. We are starting to emerge as one of the major players. We're not just some backwater country. We stood toe to toe with Britain in a revolution, and we fought them again here in the War of 1812. Of course, they were a little bit busy with France at the time in the Napoleonic Wars, and this was a very key moment in history for Europe. So Britain was very distracted and couldn't really go after us full force for the most part. But we did hold our own, and so after this point, Britain does not feel the need to go after Britain. They realize, we really should be friends. So this was actually a good thing. It's kind of like when you get into a fight with a friend of yours and you're really mad at each other, and then you have it out with each other, and then you're buddies afterwards. You realize that this is dumb. Why are we fighting? We're supposed to be friends. We're kindred spirits. Let's just be friends. So relations between Britain and America get better after that. But yeah, everybody starts getting respect for America after the War of 1812. A couple of key things in the War of 1812. Francis Scott Key, right here, he writes our national anthem, the Star Spangled Banner, during the War of 1812. He was a prisoner aboard a ship. He's watching, Baltimore. He's in Baltimore Harbor, and the British, with their mighty navy, are shelling Fort McHenry, and it just looks like there's no chance for the Americans to survive. And so he's worried about them. And then the next morning, he sees that American flag above the fort, and he just puts together these words that become our national anthem. So it's actually a pretty cool story if you ever get to look into it. Another great story is the story of Dolly Madison. Um, the President Madison, has long since left the capital. She's left behind. The British are approaching the capital, and there's all these things that are in the White House, especially this one picture, this one painting of General Washington that was bolted to the wall. She makes sure that they get everything out of the White House and leave nothing to the British, and saves a lot of important historical American heirlooms. So, in her own way, I mean, she didn't go and fight the British, but she preserved a lot of American history, and she should definitely be recognized as one of our greatest first ladies for doing that. Uh, let's see. And then finally, we get our fifth president, James Monroe. Now, James Monroe is synonymous, obviously, with the Monroe Doctrine. Now, what the Monroe Doctrine says is that any European countries, anybody that's not in America, you can't colonize America anymore. It's under American, the United States protection. If you have colonies already here, that's fine, but don't try to recolonize any colonies. Don't try to colonize, somebody else's former colonies. Once you're out of that colony, you can't come back. So, you can't interfere with the Western Hemisphere. You do what you want in Europe and Africa and Asia, whatever. But America, the United States of America is going to watch over North and South America. This is our domain now. And once we get respect after the War of 1812, this is something that can be done. And the Monroe Doctrine has been a force ever since. It's pretty bold for a young country, so that's why Monroe is is well known for this. But yeah, it protects the Latin countries from European countries from coming back in and trying to colonize them. There was one other thing. The Missouri Compromise is something that goes on during Monroe's presidency, and the Monroe Compromise is something that is a precursor to the Civil War. The question of slavery wasn't really a big issue until we started getting more and more territory, like the Louisiana Purchase. So, what to do with these new territories? Are they going to be slave states or free states? Because there was a delicate balance in Congress, and if you have too many free states, the slave states are worried they're just going to vote you out. They're going to keep making free states until they have enough votes to vote down slavery. So they came up with the Missouri Compromise, which made Missouri, and we'll jump ahead here if I can find a map. So Missouri, let's see here. Yeah, we'll get to all this. I skipped it. Darn it. Anyway, Missouri is a state that's right in the middle of the country. And they basically said Missouri is going to be a slave state, and everything above it is going to be free, and anything below it is going to be slave. So this was the compromise that got all these other compromises that had to do with slavery. And so Monroe was the first to get that whole ball rolling. And it wasn't his fault or anything. I mean, I'm sure, this didn't help. But because we kept expanding and getting more territory, the question of slavery became more and more heated. And you can see we're starting to move, because of these territories, into an attitude that is inevitably going to lead to civil war. Well, on that high note, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.